Awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome to another episode of Chase Jarvis Live. I am Chase Jarvis. I'm a director and a photographer. I hope you're familiar with my work. About once or twice every month, I host an amazing guest or two right here to my soundstage called The Garage. We invite a local audience, or actually some people, sometimes they travel from far and wide to get here, but we invite an in-studio audience so that I can press upon you guys and those folks out there on the internet all the amazing things that I want to share with some of the guests, especially the guests today. So we're going to have an amazing show in store for you. I have a few folks I'd like to thank. A huge shout out to our supporting sponsor, the main driver, HP, for helping me make the world a more creative place. Thank you so much. Also a shout out to Manfrotto, my personal tripod company. They're on board supporting us. Broncolor, they're my lighting company as well. They help us with the lights. And they've got a special cool event going on called Shoot NYC this Friday. As soon as I'm done with this show, I'm getting on a plane and heading there, so I hope to see you. And Livebooks, they've been my website company for a long time. They pop that stuff out there. A lot of page views go through them, so big thanks to those guys. Welcome to the show. We also, for the last week, we've had a contest going on to win two things. One, this book right here, the Red Bull Media Art of Flight book, which is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if I can, wow, how about that, huh? Pop-up art, and it's a gorgeous book. And the LibTech snowboard. We're going to give those two things away right now. LibTech's local company, Respect. Mervyn, just down the street from here. Thanks a lot for supporting us. The winner of the book goes to F. Constantino. Oh, that's a liar. Sorry, buddy. Eppermania. The tweet that Eppermania set out was, "We will never know our full potential unless we push ourselves to find it." Can't tell you how stoked I am to be a part of the show. So, Epper, you get the book, and I all previewed that. So right now, like F. Constantino Photo is doing a backflip somewhere in Utah because he wins the snowboard from LibTech, the Travis Rice Pro model. For the tweet, it's not the destination, but the adventure along the way at Travis Rice on CJ Live with Chase Jarvis today. So peep this. So thank you very much, guys, for promoting the show. Round of applause to the people who are promoting the show. Woo! And this is a rowdy audience. I love it. I love it. Starting right now, we're going to kick off a new contest, a contest to win an amazing pod of stuff from Manfrotto, a carbon fiber tripod, the one that I use, a bag, an LED light, a hat, and some other great stuff. And the way that you enter that contest is if you hear someone smart on stage, not going to be me, probably these two guys, but if I happen to get lucky and say something smart, you tweet a quote from the show, plus @Manfrotto_tweet, and the URL to this show right here, or wherever it is you're looking at on the internet, this URL or short URL. If you pimp that as many times as you want, we're going to pick one of those at the end of the show, and we're going to give you that beautiful bag from Manfrotto with all that stuff. Whew! Today's guests, because that's all you really care about. You hear me talk about this stuff all the time. Our first guest, there's two I'd like to introduce. We will applaud after each of them because they are both worthy. The first guest is the best snowboarder in the world. His name will remain nameless for 10 seconds more while I say he's won, 4 or 5 medals from the X Games. He's had no less than 20 film segment appearances. He is an innovator in snowboarding. He has transformed that landscape. And his name, join me in welcoming Travis Rice. All right, full hug, right? Full hug? Full hug. All right. The full man, have a seat. Now, in parallel with Travis, there's a group called Brain Farm that has basically transformed action sports movies. They took it to a level that is on par and above some of the stuff that you see in Hollywood, bringing an amazing vision, amazing technology to this world to really celebrate it. And the EP from Brain Farm is here to join us today, the amazing Chad Jackson. It's difficult, buddy. Give it to me. Sit. Oh yeah, you guys know each other. Yeah. Phew. So I was on a plane a couple days ago, which I spent a lot of time on a plane, and the Actors Studio came up. You guys know that show? You guys know that show, the Actors Studio? Yeah. So it was a great episode, but I forget the guy's name, the guy who is the me of that show, but he started off with a couple of really interesting, just like rapid fire questions designed to get me into you guys or get the folks out on there, the internet, and our in-studio audience. So I'm gonna emulate that today. So Travis Rice, how old are you?
I am just turned 30 a couple days ago.
30?
Yeah,
the internet's going like, oh shit, 30. Where are you from?
Out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
And
born there, live there.
Born there, live there.
Yep.
Upbringing, childhood. Talk to me about it. 30-second version.
It was good, man. A lot of outdoors. You know, my pops, he was like a fly fishing guide and ski patroller. So I kind of grew up.
It's a life.
Lucky enough to be in nature. You know, I maybe took it for granted a little bit, and then got out of high school, left Jackson for a while. Got to work some construction jobs and kind of get a taste of the real world.
And made it happen.
Yeah, eventually trickled back.
So you left skiing and went to snowboarding in what year?
I think when I was about 12 years old.
12?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And when you grow up, you want to be a?
Man, I thought I was going to be in the world of like herpetology, biology.
Herpetology? I don't even know what that means, but that sounds fancy.
Animals.
Animals.
Outdoors.
All right. I like it. Chad.
Yes, sir.
How old are you? Where were you born? Talk to me. Give me the details.
I am 36 years old and born in Wyoming, but grew up in Colorado.
Excellent.
And made my way back to Wyoming, to Jackson Hole, about 13 years ago.
And you, before Brain Farm, you worked for some of these other great brands that are in action sports and have helped to instigate this progression in action sports filmmaking. Can you name a couple of those for me?
Yeah, I kind of just stumbled into the industry, but Teton Gravity Research, worked there in the early days for about 8 years, and then migrated out and did some independent stuff for different documentaries within the space, and then linked up with Travis and Kurt Morgan to work at Brain Farm.
Yeah. He did big things. We were lucky enough to swoop him up.
Nice job. Welcome. Well, thanks for entertaining me on that little intro note. Into the meat of the matter. First of all, if you're just now joining us, I'm Chase Jarvis. You're here at Chase Jarvis Live. We're taking hashtags from anywhere in the universe. Hashtag CJ Live. You can ask these folks questions, and you folks in the live studio audience, feel free to conjure up a question. I'll go to the question and answer portion in the not too distant future. So stay tuned. All right. 3 years in the making. Art of Flight.
Yeah.
Totally transformative movie. Talk to me a little bit about how it got started. What was the concept behind it?
It was a long process to get to the point of even being able to start that film. You know, for so many years, I grew up in the world of the snowboard film. Right. And it's kind of
let's replay what the old snowboard film model was. So yeah, why don't you tell the people? The old snowboard model is, well, companies get together, they find some sponsors, and
yeah, essentially it's a pretty good model as far as the riders and the filmmakers are concerned, because you go out with a lot of heart and gusto and spend your winter trying to stack footy, go out, get shots, travel to beautiful places, and then come springtime, you kind of shake all that out on the editing table and kind of begin to piece it together and try to fit it into a nice little pyramid.
And why is this different? Why was Art of Flight, which is widely regarded as the most innovative ski and snowboard action sports film of all time?
Well, it's a bit of an evolution, I think, from that concept, because we've attempted to go in to a dark room with foresight, essentially. We base our trips and where we go on weather conditions and so many other factors, and trying to script out a story of where we're going to go, what are we going to do, it's pretty difficult to do that. So I think that we've been trending towards creating a film project that has a little bit more of a dialogue, tells a little bit more of a story, with bringing in some of the aerial cinematography. We've attempted to try to zoom out a bit and visually show people where we go. I think that was one of the frustrating things in previous years doing this was, it's been a full season out shooting and we come home and I'd show my friends and family, and it was kind of like, I never felt that they could even kind of grasp where we were or what we were doing.
Right.
So we
you pulled back a little bit, and if I may, it's like you told a larger story. Like, how do you guys, so Brain Farm, you're obviously the brainchild of this. How did you guys approach this different than you had all of your other projects?
Yeah, I think, you know, some of the things that Kurt and Travis wanted to do was really shake it up and make something that was really outside the box. The film before this, That's All, really brought a lot of new camera techniques that, you know, like we were discussing before, they're not necessarily new to the world, but they're new to the action sports world. Kurt Morgan, who is the CEO and director at Brain Farm, really has this eye for using new technology and this passion for making the perfect image, which is a two-edged sword because it's a real pain in the butt. Because
you can say ass if you need to, but I appreciate butts.
Pain in the asses, for sure, because it just creates a lot of extra headaches and work for our crew because we have to be perfect. And the guys that go out in the field day after day are carrying much more equipment than your average snowboard filmmaker. And I think that's one thing that is really different from the normal model is that, you know, these guys can travel light. The old model is the guys can travel light, carry everything in one pack and get out and come back. We have sleds full of gear. We're taking jibs. We're taking dolly tracks. We're taking, you know, 50 pounds, 100 pounds of weight to work the jib. We have remote heads. We have all kinds of large, expensive cameras and lenses, and to get that out in the backcountry is a huge mission. And
it's a total wad.
Yeah, it's a real nightmare. It burns everybody out, but in the end, we believe it pays off because we're trying to get that beautiful image and tell a great story.
Right. But in the end, we believe that we can get a great image and tell a great story. So I'm going to go back to something that you guys were just sort of pointing at, but not diving deep into. Which is what I consider to be the theme of this show, is don't try and be incrementally better, be different, and be bold. So let's address our attention to that for just a second, because clearly what you created was something very different and very bold. But to create something and put it out in the world, something that's different and bold, you typically have to have a different approach. You can't have the same approach and then what comes out is different and bold. You know, it's like if you keep putting A in, then you don't, and A is going to come out. You got to put B in for B to come out, you know, in the black box. So what was the different approach? Because that's, you know, the audience today here in the studio. It's a total cross section of athletes and artists and entrepreneurs, and in the audience out there on the internet, same thing. So the goal of our show today is to be able to apply some of the things that you guys talk about to the world, and they need to gather what I'm going to say is shift their mentality from being just a little bit better than last year's film, which is, if I'm going to call it, you know, I cut my teeth in action sports for years and years, and I just saw it like every year just get slightly incrementally better. There was no different. And then you guys with this breakout film have been different. So what was the different input?
I think the different input was when we kind of broke down who we were trying to target with the movie. Because for so many years we were trying to target our peers. And with this flick, it was like, all right, let's step back. Like, let's invite, you know, Joe Schmo from Texas who doesn't know a single thing about winter into our world and be able to educate it. Now, the toughest thing with doing that is staying true to kind of what we've always stood for. Essentially, you know, the term the core. And it's a fine line, like trying to appease both.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the toughest thing we had to do with this film. And, you know, essentially the way we went about it was, you know, being able to have a dialogue, a running narrative that would, you know, give a little insight for what it's like to be out there.
Or pull back a little bit, like that you said earlier. That's the thing. It was just snowboard porn for the previous 20 years. It was just like I've never seen porn, but I hear you just cut from one action shot to the next, to the next, to the next. And with you guys, you talked a little bit more about a journey.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, there's been some great documentary pieces, you know, that have come out over the years. But I think, you know, with this piece, we know we had to, you know, come full force with the visual element. You know, it was definitely a multifaceted, you know, from the sound design, working specifically with Dolby. I mean, we went down and did ours.
Thomas Dolby? Science. No, the
Yeah,
Dolby
and
folks at Dolby. I got
So
it.
they were a great help. We got to go finish the piece at Skywalker Ranch, outside of
thanks to Dolby.
SF, which was a pretty huge deal. I mean,
So there, if I'm going to summarize, there are two different tacks. One, you went at it thinking about the end in mind, like who do we want to be excited about this? We want our peers, but we want somebody larger too. You want to make a bigger pie.
And I think another key aspect is, like you said, stepping back and showing what the snowboarders see when they go on these trips. The what we've been compared to is the planet Earth of snowboarding, and seeing the wildlife, the mountains, the scenery, and then also adding into that some of the elements that these guys get into, trying to get to these mountain peaks or wherever they're going. Helicopter troubles, getting stuck, getting cliffed out, trying to bring in small amounts of story element that's not just we hit a jump and it was a sick trick and we landed. There's a little bit more story to it. It's a fine line. You can't make a huge documentary that could be a sleeper, because your fan base, they want that excitement and they want to be cheering as they're watching the film premiere. So you walk this fine line of little bits of story and amazing visuals that aren't necessarily just snowboarding. And I think what that does is draws in a little bit more mainstream and opens up our world.
And hold that kind of sprinkle of picante rock and roll undertone.
And you guys did that through a variety of means, from a production level, production values, sound design, the different cameras and technology, which we'll talk about in a second. One of the analogies that I use, like if what I'm doing as a photographer or a filmmaker is making a product, that's the log that I'm sawing. I bring it into the mill and I'm milling this log. And so if you're milling the art of flight, or you're milling that porn story of just great action, there's all this sawdust that's coming off. Mm-hmm. And the sawdust, one of the things I realized is that there's a ton of value here, and that's actually what people want to see, what the thing was cut from. They want to know a little bit more about you. They want to know a little bit more about the film. Mm-hmm. And you guys did that as well as I've ever seen it done, especially in an action flick. Mm-hmm. So you guys buy into my analogy?
Yeah.
I'm buying it, I mean, essentially, for years people have been juicing and they throw out all that beautiful colored, pulp. It's your fiber, man. Put it in a bake.
Oh, it's vibrant. So you upped me there, dude. You definitely raised the game. See, raising the game, innovating, be bold, be different. No. So we do have the trailer queued up here, and I'd like to go to that in just a second. If you're tuning in, again, I'm Chase. We're here with a couple of amazing cats, Travis Rice, Chad Jackson, both involved in the film project Art of Flight, which we're going to go see. We're going to come back to some questions in the audience immediately following this, so stay tuned and prepare your questions. Let's take it away with the Art of Flight.
It's not the destination, it's the adventure along the way, and it seems cliche to say that, but that's really how it is.
Much worse across the country. 26 deaths are being blamed on this cold snap.
I can tell you from experience, if I'm going into something that's really intense and someone else has ridden it before me, the level of intensity is totally brought down a notch.
When we asked to go there, he said, no. You cannot escape from this place.
He does not want to be in this area at all.
And let's go get tons of fuel and go here.
What planet the fuck are you from?
one of the points in my life where I could say, like, no one else has ever been here, ever.
Round of applause for that. Nasty. Woo! Hot to trot. Congratulations, guys. That's amazing, completely amazing. So one of the things that we saw in that film was some technology. We're going to come back out of some questions from the audience into some technology, so be thinking about that while you're answering these fine folks' questions. Who's got a question? Hand up right there in the front row. That makes it so easy.
Oh, yeah.
Hi there.
Okay,
Chase.
hi.
Nice to speak with you. What's going on?
Nice to speak with you also. Question for all three of you, actually. What is your favorite current tech?
Favorite tech, as in piece of technology to do
Yes,
our jobs?
anything. Could be any kind of tech.
I'm going to kick that one to you, as far away from me as I can get it.
Well, I'd say one of our favorite new pieces of equipment, which wasn't actually used in this film, is called the Cineflex Elite, and it's the new Cineflex that just released late this summer, and it's built more for feature films and larger format. So it's got the Arri Alexa M built inside, and great piece of equipment. It now allows us to go out and shoot features, and not quite 4K, but larger format, commercial, and feature films, as well as stepping up the game for TV and then our action sports films. So, and Brain Farm, Kurt Morgan specifically at Brain Farm was instrumental in working with General Dynamics, who owns Cineflex, to develop that camera. And he really pushed them to make the camera that he wanted to see, and develop the Cineflex beyond what it was. And for people that don't know, the Cineflex is the gimbal that's on the front of the helicopter.
Looks like a spaceship.
It's a gyro-stabilized camera system, and mostly used as aerials, but we also like to use it on whatever we can put it on. The bottom of a tram, a jet ski, a boat, whatever we could possibly put it on.
Yeah, Brain Farm pretty much puts it on anything. I think we even had last year when we were in Chile, we had lined up Cine Donkey. We were going to mount it on a donkey, and they were worried that the donkey was going to run away.
Yeah, it's a very expensive donkey.
But
that's going to get tweeted out. Like, that is one expensive donkey. I'm just saying it's going to get.
That's what she said.
Yeah, well, it's going to be some 2014 shit now. So
that's right.
But the Cineflex Elite is really going to change. It's a game changer for us, because for years we've dealt with. The system is so amazing. It's got weapons grade gyros in it, the technology in it. So it's basically. It's a nightmare to travel internationally with. So bringing it over country borders, it takes at least 10 days.
There's a lot of countries you can't take it to because it's controlled by the State Department.
So we can't really chase storms, we can't chase conditions with it. So it's kind of been limiting. And the new Elite, it doesn't have that anymore.
Yeah, the gyros aren't controlled by ITAR, which is International Trades and Arms Regulations.
All right, now you guys are going off the rails. We're going to stop that. That's international trade regulations and State Department shit. That's just
scary.
Yeah, it's scary. So, okay, and you too can make a film just like this.
Yeah.
Make it very
no,
simple.
really, it's just a handy cam and a couple of buddies.
Just give me some money and I'll do it.
But Cine Donkey, yeah.
The Cine Donkey is your favorite piece of technology?
It's a pretty amazing one. Well, I guess on the tech side, I'm pretty excited. I work with Contour, which is actually here in Seattle.
Yep.
And we actually did a kind of like a little pro model Contour cam.
Cool.
That's just coming out. So that we actually painted the thing, did like nice little art design through my art and photography company called Assemble.
Yep, Assemble. Cool.
That's my new.
That's passion right there.
Yeah.
Cool. I would say, in dovetailing off that the GoPro Hero 3 is my new favorite piece of technology. I got to be at the launch in San Francisco last week. It's a 4K camera, and it's like this big. Yeah, you were there. Did we talk? I'm sorry, I had a lot to drink. It's a really, and so I think we could just say both these small camera systems where you can make beautiful, beautiful films. Those things are at $400, $300. And so those are the opposite ends of the spectrum. And to me, that's democratizing these processes. They're going to have 720 at 120 frames a second, which I have one. You can mug me and take it off me later. But so does that answer your question? Fair enough? Cool. We're going to go to the phones before we go to the other audience. We got Rob Stanton, at Rob C. Stanton, says the Art of Flight had to cost a shit ton of cash. Did you make it back and then some, or was it a labor of love with hopes for the future ROI? Why don't you talk to me about that Because I think that's a question that people want to know. Like, oh, I can't possibly do that because it took too much money, and me and my friends don't have that much money.
I mean, I guess it's kind of an amazing model because basically this spring we broke even on production costs, which the Art of Flight essentially has now become the best-selling action sports entity. We just broke about 500,000 units sold between physical and online.
Amazing.
So it's.
But see, you had to sell a lot of units because the budget was very, very large, right? And Red Bull was a big supporter.
I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, that was a $10 million film or whatever. I think a lot of people think it was more expensive than it actually was.
Which it should have been.
Which, yeah, and to answer your question, it wasn't a massive, or answer his question, it wasn't a massive moneymaker. There was a lot of labor of love, ROI. Let's make the next calling card for Travis and Brain Farm.
Got it.
There was a lot of that, and
see, this is something if you guys out there on the internet should be listening to, because there's this is the paying it forward part of it with your career, and to be able to think about, we're going to sink everything we can into here, and we hope it works out. We got to have some financial, we got to do some math around this thing. But what we're really doing, in addition to making the most bold thing ever, is a stepping stone in our career to continue to get to the next best thing. And it's not next best. I'm going to correct myself. It's something that's different. Like, where are we going to continue to push this in a way it hasn't been pushed before? Right. So another question came in, which I think is a great follow-up. This is from Bradshaw Lee. I don't know where Bradshaw's from. We're going to say he's from the other coast somewhere. What skills beyond photography, video, and snowboarding do you have to bring to a project like Art of Flight to make it successful? Because there's insight here for sure. So drop some knowledge for us.
I mean, I would say the biggest, for us to be able to achieve what we did, the team element. I think that, skate, surf, snow, it's oftentimes kind of looked at as this kind of individualistic sport, where we're out kind of doing our own thing, supporting ourselves individually. But when it comes to filmmaking, I think it's one of the most dynamic team sports out there, maybe short of war, because and our crew's pretty big. We go out with maybe like a 12-person crew, and for us to get a shot, every single one of those people have to be on point. I get off easy because I'm the only one who can screw up. Everyone else can't miss a shot or blow an audio clip. So I think for us achieving this film, I mean, really only as fast as your weakest link, and every person you involve in a project, you can go ahead and just add like an extra half an hour.
Right. I think the team concept is really, really important for anything, and this really translates well to you folks at home. The idea that even if you're an independent photographer, you just throw your cameras in your back and you go out to make something, 9 times out of 10 you're interacting with other folks and in a collaborative environment, whether that's the person you're photographing, the team you're photographing, someone you're working with, collaborating with you're shooting stills or shooting cinema or vice versa. It's rarely just one person in a box. You have to learn to communicate to your crew, you have to learn to communicate to the talent. And while at the end of the day, Brain Farm might get a lot of the credit in the filmmaking world, or Travis in the snowboarding world, I think you epitomize, and the way you think about it epitomizes the success, which is nothing happens without a team. It's very, very village driven. So, this makes me want to I don't know, we got one more question on the audience, and then I got to go to a different thing. We got to talk about innovation next, but please, let's go right back there in the leather. I like that leather jacket, man. Bring it home for us.
Thanks, Chase. I was just curious, you guys said that it was a real pain in the ass to carry around all that extra equipment to create such a visually dynamic story. And did that hold you back from getting more footage, or did you guys film 3 movies worth of footage and just pick the cream of the crop and put it into the amazing movie that you made?
Yeah. So it's really a question about how much did you capture? Did the stuff that you created slow you down, or was it ultimately the differentiator? And then how did you go through the editing process?
Dude, well,
did it slow you down?
We ended up with, what was it, 2,200
hours?
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite that much, but that sounds like a great number.
Let's call it.
It's close.
2,000 hours for, what did the film net out at, $1.30 or an hour and 30?
Hour 20.
Hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I know it was around 2,000 hours of footage, that we compiled.
There's around 80 to 100 terabytes of footage, so a lot of media management.
And there's a lot of thumb drives.
And then you take all those.
Yeah.
If you take that terabyte
Actually, we brought them
back
all,
to,
and they're in here.
Yeah, this is the storage for the.
Yeah, 10 of those. But if you take that terabyte back to how it was captured, there's obviously a lot of equipment, time, media management, people dealing with stuff. And I think it really does slow down the process, but it's also part of the reason that we like to do more of a 2 to 3 year project, because it gives us the time to work with bad weather conditions or things not going right, or potentially people getting injured, and that's why we need a bit more time, which means you need a bit more budget. So to answer your question, yes, it does slow the process down, and you'll see if we might see it in some of the behind the scenes footage, just the frustration with the athletes and some of the crew or the safety guys are just like, Jesus, just look, when can we shoot? We've been standing here for hours.
Yeah.
Are you set up yet?
Literally,
So,
and you're freezing cold, and you just got to get all the moon lined up with Venus basically before you pull the trigger.
Hurry up and wait. That's the thing.
Hurry up and
tough
wait.
type
So
of
while these
film to
guys are cueing the behind the scenes, and let's make sure we don't show the television one. The behind the scenes shot would be a great one for us to cut to, but I got one more question. I'm not going to go to the crowd. I'm going to go back to the internet, and it is about weather, and it's at HLB Photo. They want to know what's the biggest challenge, particularly in harsh weather conditions. Is it athletes getting cold? Is it gear freezing? Like, to do something bold and different and innovative, you have to take these big boy tools out there. What's the biggest challenge?
I think the athletes getting cold would be at the last priority of.
That's right.
That doesn't really matter much.
It's like, okay, you got to go do your triple flip up.
I think, well, we're working in real mountain conditions, and avalanche and safety is a huge part of it. I mean, we go to some pretty dangerous places, and we take it very serious. In the end, we're trying to create a sustainable way of doing this, and everyone making it home at the end of the day is the number one priority. So I think it's lining up safety, and with weather, the time it takes to go out and assess. It's a lot of factors.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this. I'm going to start telling this story a little bit more because it's very, very impactful for my personal life. But I almost died in a major avalanche in Alaska about 6 or 7 years ago. And it was a transformative moment in my career because I realized that I wanted to do something different after that. I was in a mold, say the old ski mold, I worked for all the ski and snowboard flicks, and was endemic, and I was like, wait a minute, I want to try and make the pie bigger instead of dividing up the same pie. It was an important moment for me, but I know from having been there how important that safety is, especially with weather. Like, imagine that the films that you want to make, if there's 100% of the time, and just after a storm is the 5% most dangerous time you could possibly ever do anything like this, and then it's these guys and gals' job to live their entire life in that 5%. So that, just a numbers game alone, starts to be super hairy. Sure. And speaking of being in the middle of nowhere, let's cut to the behind the scenes footage. It's just a couple minutes here to show you a little bit about some of the fun, some of the okay, and some of the crappy. So take it away on the behind the scenes footage from the movie Art of Flight.
With the last film, it was like a 2-year on-the-job training of how to try to bring the junk show that big production is into the backcountry. And so once we finished that film, it was like, okay, I think we finally have our head wrapped around it. Now let's go make one for real. So in case all y'all don't know what a cable cam's all about, you're about to experience it firsthand from my friend, Cable Guy Gabe. Here we go.
Holy shit.
So, as you can tell, cable cam experiment went excellent. Everything's good to go.
Most crews show up here with like Super 16 or, HD cameras that are handheld. 35 millimeters when the bigger guns show up. But to have a Cineflex, to have the Phantom, to have the Varicams is something that definitely stands out quite a bit.
We got 2 Varicams, F3, Phantom in a mini heli, Airy 235, and the Cineflex shooting at the heli. Not to mention, I'm running iPhone video too. It's chaos.
Drag like 15 people out for every shoot, but it's needed, man. That we're trying to do is definitely next level and takes a lot of committed individuals.
Such a pain, this thing. I mean, we try so hard to have the highest end production value in Cineflex, Phantom, all these crazy cameras, and I'll tell you, it adds a huge amount of stress.
Anybody got any tips on how to get this thing started?
We have to make sure that everything is in line perfectly in order for this to happen. If one thing goes wrong, the whole thing's kaput.
The individuality of something like snowboarding is very team-oriented when it comes to trying to film snowboard film, especially with all the variables that we have.
Getting a shot has this variable list that's so long.
For every shot that you get, you probably have spent a week and a half trying to get it.
So when it all comes together and you land that trick and everybody yells because they got the right shot, it feels really good. It's just a satisfactory feeling, but after like 30 seconds it wears off and you want to get it again and come back for more.
In making these films, I think making them more progressive and upping the ante on the snowboarding at the same time is kind of the goal, but it's that art of wanting more. Even if it's the best trip ever, it could always be better, and I think that's what kind of keeps you going, and that's the only reason that these films keep getting made.
Congratulations, guys. Congratulations. Whew. If you're just tuning in, that was a behind-the-scenes clip from the Art of Flight, one of the best snowboard movie ever made. And we're sitting here with the folks that made it, Chad Jackson, Travis Rice. Thank you again. We're available at #CJLive. We're taking your questions. I told you earlier, right before that clip, that I wanted to move into innovation. And one of the things that I think drives me as an artist is the desire to innovate. And that's that sort of the be different mantra. Can you guys talk a little bit about innovation even in not just filmmaking, but in your professional and personal mission to snowboard well? And then we'll go to you, Chad, and hear a little bit from you about innovation in the filmmaking process.
I guess in regards to the filmmaking side of it, innovation for us has kind of evolved out of kind of laying it on the line and risking quite a bit. I mean, the first 2 projects before Art of Flight that we did when we kind of created Brain Farm and tried to put our own spin on it. I mean, we had, I self-funded both those films for the first 6 months because it was something that we believed in and we wanted to kickstart. Who knows how long it would take to try to get all the right sign-offs, right, and sponsorship backing. So we went out, we knew what we wanted to accomplish. We started production. I bankrolled it in the beginning, and then we went and sold the ideas to, first it was Oakley, and then second time around, Red Bull jumped on. So I think the innovation aspect to what we have been talking about, right? I would say is, you have something that you're passionate about and you believe it to be. You definitely can't always wait for everything to line up in order to take that first leap.
That's a quotable tweet right there. You can't, because if you sit around and wait, someone else is actually doing it. And I'm a huge advocate of building something with the end in mind, and sometimes that requires you to start now.
Yeah.
And how you're gonna make money, who your partners in crime are gonna be. When it's time to film, it's time to film. And I think there's a lot of risk in that. So this innovation platform that you guys have made for yourself was not without some serious like WTF moments, like, oh my God, we're dropping how much money, we don't have anybody on board, but there's this sort of desire to plow forward. Am I summarizing that correctly?
Yeah, and I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in limiting factors. You know, everything is impossible until it is done. And then it's like, oh, okay, it's doable.
Right.
So
somebody's got a great quote of, the person who thinks something is impossible should get out of the way of the person who's doing it.
Sure, man, fair
Something
enough.
like that. But I feel like you've seen it with the business model, and you probably have seen it with snowboarding a fair bit too, like the actual athletic endeavor, right? You know, they were talking about no triples way back then, and now doubles and triples are.
Yeah, once someone does it, and people are like, oh, okay, and they begin to wrap their head around it.
Do you use that as fuel?
50 grand to the guy that does it in the backcountry.
Oh God, dude.
Wait, is that too much?
No, Kurt Morgan, he's a really dynamic guy. The guy who
is the director.
Is director of Brain Farm, and
who couldn't be here.
And he had a running dialogue through the whole production of this movie about just the wildest claims for handing out cash rewards for double corking out of an avalanche or all kinds of nearly impossible. He would just, throw money at. Oh yeah, anyone does it, it's right here.
But I think he was dead serious too.
He was dead serious.
I want to see this now.
But that's the mentality is what I think what the people in the audience and the people at home care about is that there is if someone says it can't be done, that is an amazing motivation for doing it. That is the different that we keep talking about.
Right.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I think Kurt's mentality really, it really sets in with the crew and everybody and everything we're trying to do. Is he said it in the video there that you can always be better and you can always, you look at your project and you think, oh man, that could be better. It's not finished, or there's always better. And that's kind of the mantra for Travis and Brain Farm is from every element.
And what are you going to raise the ante on?
Yeah, it starts with the partners and the funding, and it's been awesome to work with Red Bull Media House because they really allow that innovation and allow you to kind of play your own game, which is really refreshing. And then, you can always improve on camera angles, technology, how you capture everything, and I think something that Kurt's really passionate about too is just the finishing product. There's action sports films in the past generally haven't done a whole lot on the finishing from the sound mix, sound design, color, and that's why we work with partners like Dolby just to make it finish high quality. And I think there's so much innovation in that entire process just from a filmmaking standpoint. But then the thing that's baffled me is I've worked in this industry now for 13 years, and you kind of get desensitized to these guys jumping off cliffs or jumping this, but every year I'm still like, how do they top that? But every year they do, and that's the one thing that really drives us and blows me away is just innovating in tricks or approach, or even just coming up with ways to work with the filmmakers to capture it in a new way. Right.
Yeah,
that's what's really cool and innovating.
That's a hands down the lamest question I get asked in interviews.
What's that? The one I just asked? That sucks.
How can things progress any further? Like, it's at such a high level. Do you think it's possible for things to progress further? And I get asked that in interviews all the time. And I guess back to the innovation kick, because I think it's a great topic. I'd like to talk about this event that I do called the Red Bull Supernatural. For so many years, snowboarding has been about bringing, freestyle elements and taking them into the backcountry. And for about 5 years, we worked on developing this concept. And essentially, the Red Bull Supernatural is an event that we hold up in the middle of nowhere up in British Columbia, Bald-Face Cat Skiing Lodge outside of Nelson.
That is the middle of nowhere. That is very deep.
Yeah, it's deep.
That's deep.
But some of the best conditions, that's why we chose it. And essentially what I wanted to do was bring a slope-style X Games type event to natural conditions. And we went in, we looked everywhere and finally found the perfect location to do this. And we went in the beginning of the summer with an amazing team, engineers, arborists, and a few wily lumberjacks. And we went and built on a 2,200-foot face, built over 100 features, and then spent 2 months babying as winter came and snow started to stack up, avalanche controlling the whole thing, pruning it, shaping it, and then did a contest last year, was the first year. And it was an amazing success. Basically everyone comes up and top to bottom takes 2 minutes, and it's pretty much we made the best run in the world, essentially.
And you crafted that out of your own little brainchild. Big brain, sorry.
I did. I totally crafted it, put the right people into place, but I can't take credit for the idea. It's it's like a fantasy of so many people that spend their time riding snow outdoors, and I think it's something that was inevitable. It was going to happen. Right. I just happen to be able to have amazing partners that support what we do. So.
Well, and that's, again, the innovation. When something's not there and you can step into sort of a vacuum, that's when there's the most opportunity to make impact, right? Because people haven't done it. And it's easy to criticize if there are the haters out there. It's easy to criticize something that's just slightly a little bit better, but something that's so out of the box. I've spent a lot of my career doing the same sort of things, trying to innovate in a way that people, are even going to talk shit about. Like, oh God, you're going to go cut down a bunch of trees in the summer and you're going to make some jumps, really? And then when it comes together, and it is the most innovative contest, action sports contest in the world, I would say, then that's how you make believers. And it's sort of not just doing that 0 times, it's doing it 1 time and then doing it 2 times. There's probably a few failures in there too. So I want to shift the conversation to some failures, to some broken cameras, to some missed opportunities, and maybe you can talk to me about that, Chad.
I would say one of the biggest challenges is always the weather factor, and specifically in the art of flight. These guys were down in South America for a month and a half or more.
But with 2 years in, it was just short of 4 months.
Yeah, and our partners probably weren't too happy about this, but the amount of money that we spent on helicopters and getting there and trying to get this and trying to get that, the amount of snowboarding that was captured for a lot of money wasn't there, and I think that was probably one of the failures of the film. But if you look back on it, we have the best National Geographic reel of aerials ever.
That's some more sawdust that came off the lumber, right?
That was the sawdust and the pulp, or whatever you want to call it. But that was
better.
Yeah. Well, and you gotta be proud of your failures.
Yeah.
I think
Say it again.
You have to be proud of your failures, and parlaying the innovation talk we were just happening. I think being okay and willing to fail miserably at something, that is a big part of innovation.
Absolutely.
Well, because no one walks in and just hits it out of the park first time stepping out of their little safety box, and it's that when you get into success or finding great things happening with what you're trying to do when pushing forward, being willing to fail and be okay with it, and that's the hugest part.
I think there's some crazy stat about how many game-winning shots Michael Jordan has shot in his life. You think of him as like the game-winning guy, but he's missed some crazy percentage of them, and it's because he's just not afraid to take that shot. And I'm sure that when you think about it, let's look at the ratio of footage shot to footage that appears in the film. If film appearance is considered success, there's 2,200 to 1, basically. Right. And I'd say that's a ratio that I'd be proud of, shooting really, really high quality action stills in the middle of nowhere. And fortunately for you, 1 year, 1 event, you hit it out of the park. It was an amazing event. I wasn't there, but I heard about it. So successes and failures along the way ultimately are a big driver.
Yeah. It's okay to bomb.
What's that?
It's okay to bomb.
As long as you learn from your failures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think learning something is a part for the creatives that are listening. Like, you have to take a picture and put it out there in the world, for example, to get feedback, whether it's from your mom, your friends, or just from the world at large. Because you need a little bit of, it can be success for you. You can pat yourself on the back, but you got to throw it out there and see what flies, so to speak. So we're going to go back to the audience here in just a second, but I'm going to go to the internet. Until then, David Ducond 11 says Supernatural was a big hit. being from Wyoming, do you see Supernatural expanding and building a run in the Wyoming backcountry? Is it going to become an area?
It's funny. The first event we ever did was Quicksilver Natural Selection, which was kind of like the, Supernatural 1.0.
Sure.
And, then we stepped away from that for 5 years to kind of it was a great success, that event, but we took what we learned and felt we could do it much better, and then we went to Supernatural. As far as Supernatural moving forward, it was never, the concept of it was never as a one-off event. And eventually we'll be in 4 years, we should have 4 events globally. We already have our next location already locked down. I can't quite disclose where it's going to be. But Supernatural is going to be a series, and I think it's going to be the highest echelon of competitive snowboarding out there.
Wow. Very, very innovative and forward-thinking. Kudos to you. We'll be taking some more questions from the phones here in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. In the meantime, I hear there's some folk in the local in-studio audience here with a question. You, sir, have the man with the mic. Talk.
What's up, Travis? So I just had a question about, from a technical standpoint, when you're actually riding, how much is kind of your vision versus the vision of the production and the director? Say you want to hit something, is it that might not correspond with exactly what the production manager wants or something like that?
It's a funny question because, as much as the direction, Kurt has great wild ideas, usually when he presents an idea to me, like, oh, we should ride this, or, I almost kind of shy away from it. I think what we ride out there is primarily what we decide and the styles, that we want to approach the mountain with. And it's kind of important that it is that way when you root back to
the core
decision making.
Decisions, okay.
Decision making in the backcountry and smart decision making, because for every one of the shots that you see in the film that worked out, there was probably 10 other decisions that we made that we said no to, as far as something that didn't line up right. And that's one of the most important traits that you need to go out and do this type of stuff, is being able to step back, being able to say no when you get into the sustainability side of it, because it's real easy to just say, work yourself up and send it and blow yourself out. And that's,
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And if I'm thinking like the audience is thinking, trying to apply it more broadly, the same thing applies. I think as people, we want to say yes because we want to love life and embrace it. And when you're making art or when you're making a film, especially if there's life and safety at hand, sometimes knowing when to say no and what jobs not to take as a creative, it might be a great job, but the line producer's a jerk and the client's not happy, and to be able to say no and to protect what it is that you believe in is an amazing characteristic in a creative. And I think athletics, and especially the kind that you're into, is such a creative endeavor where there's life and safety involved. Knowing when to say it's not on, whether it's conditions or the place that the filmmaker wants you to go. I've had that happen 1,000 times. You just hit this ridge and then you drop into this little slot and then you're home clear.
Yeah.
And I've had the athlete go, "Oh man, that's gonna pop, that little pocket right there," or whatever. And that communication, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and I mean, it's quality of life, right? As we move closer to the Japanese work week here in America, it's so easy to just completely spread yourself thin and overwhelm yourself. Or I think that the quality of life, the quality of life element, needs to be more prevalent in everyday decision making. That's why I love being in France or
the 34-hour
Spain.
work
Yeah,
there.
it's like
siestas. They got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But there's also there's something about creating space as a creative, and I'd like you to talk about this, Chad. If you're just to the wall the whole time, it's really hard to it's really in stepping back and stepping away and having a sense of adventure, maybe, that a lot of the ideas come to the creatives that I know. Can you talk about how you see that for me?
Yeah, it's hard for me to preach about that because I get caught in the rat race and I put my head down and have so many things going on. But I think you're right. It is really important to step back sometimes and just be like, wait a second, get rid of a lot of these things that don't matter, and try and get creative and step outside the box and put yourself in different places and different situations to shake up your mindset.
Yeah,
I think
super valuable.
I mean, it's meditation.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of meditation, whether you formally practice or not formally practice. The ability to step out, go quiet for a second. Like, I never create in chaos. I aggregate, I collect in chaos at a party. This is, I'm noticing my friends, or I'm noticing the surroundings or whatever. Those are the things, those are the inputs that I use to then sort of wad something up in a ball and make something. But I'm just collecting during the noise, and it's during the quiet that I can really be an effective maker. Let's gonna go back to the studio audience here for another question. These are good. Oh, I would love to hear from you. Hang on just 1 second here. Camera's gonna get in place on you. What do you got? Fire it away.
2,200 hours or 2,000 hours. What was when you sat down in front of the computer to edit or decide which footage you would go with, how did you do that?
You just pick the third hour and then just went with that one.
Yeah, pretty much. There's definitely a ton of work and applause that goes to the post-production team, and basically as stuff comes in after trips, we ingest and organize and start to bin stuff out based on selects feedback from the camera crew and the director and Travis. That stuff starts getting sorted and selects put into certain areas as it comes in, because if you try and do it all at the end, you're not going to get it done. So it's just a real solid team of loggers who are logging it, and then somebody goes through and grades it, and then you bin it up based on stories that you plan to tell. And I think in the future, more and more, we want to even start cutting it quicker. I think that's part of the old action sports model, is shoot it all, put it in a pile, and deal with it in May, or at least for the northern hemisphere. And I think as we move forward, we want to cut more and know what our stories are going into it. A little bit more
it's
of
so
a
fresh
proper
in your mind.
Right.
I find that like, if I can sit down, even if not do the full thing, but if I can just sit down for 2 hours and flag clips after a couple days of shooting and capture, like, oh, I know that his third hit was the best for sure. So you can flag that and you watch it like, yep. And then come May, you've got a couple tags or a couple bins made. That seems to take a lot of the stress out of it. And again, that's an innovation. That's being different. That's how different you guys are approaching your craft as opposed to the historical precedent.
Yeah, it's like making a fine Daiginjo sake. Lots of filtration.
Lots of filtration. I can't even say that, but I'm sure someone's going to tweet that shit. Did that answer your question? You feel like it got good? Yeah, let's go back. Let's stay with the studio audience, because you guys are firing away here and there's some hands. Other folks up there up front here. Yeah, thank you. Hi there, welcome.
Hi. Hello, boys. We talked about your technical advancements in filmmaking and obviously your snowboarding, but what about your equipment? You design everything you ride from head to toe, don't you?
Yeah, I spend a huge part of my off-snow time is in development with sponsors that I work with that empower me to be able to have creative freedom moving forward, and from like outerwear development with Quicksilver to take the goggle for example.
Sure.
For years, people roll around with goggles that essentially give you horse blinders. Can't see peripherally, can't see down, can't see up, and
yeah, I've hit some shit because of those.
And people just accept like, okay, well that's the way it is. These are how goggles are, and I can't see out here, yet I'm still predatory. And so we spent a few years designing this new goggle called the Hubble, which actually you see 170, 180 degree peripherally, you can't see any frame, and it's simple things like that. Being like LibTech, board we're giving away right here.
Yep.
Like that board is the most technologically advanced board on the market because...
Can we get a shot of that board? It's a great graphic.
Yeah, it's a great graphic. Mike Perillo graphic.
Nice.
And I think, years and years of testing and being able to tweak things in factory, and once again, the team element, working with great people. I mean, this board, it's got it's got a wiggle side edge. It's like a serrated knife, or like a hockey skate. You know, if you ever try to cut tomato or cut bread with a flat knife, can't do it. So therefore, magnetraction.
Nice.
That's
magnetraction.
That's called magnetraction. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good name. You know,
that's wicked.
They're the mad scientists over at Mervin.
No, I feel like that. Yeah, that's a lot of respect to the folks at Mervin. The idea of innovating on the equipment stuff, it also translates into my world. The manufacturing process and the manufacturers, there's a lot of legacy and history in the world that I come from, so it's a little more difficult and slow to evolve. But that's one of the things that the folks that I work with that get it. I always use the snowboard model, not literally model of the snowboard, but the snowboard industry model, listening to the kinds of things that we want to create. And we're just really starting to see it. And some of the legacy manufacturers have trouble adapting or thinking that they don't know all, hey, we know all the answers, we've been doing this for 50 years, but they don't necessarily know what we want. So it's refreshing. You know, I'm just starting to experience it with some manufacturers, and having been on the inside for almost a decade with these companies is what it's taken. So it's super refreshing to see you all designing what it is that you ride and ski. And so kudos to you.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky to be with partners, open minds, and you know.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm going to go to the phones now. We've got El Adobe Market says, what feeds your creativity outside of snowboarding? I love this question because most of my biggest inspirers aren't necessarily photographers or filmmakers. They're from beyond. So I want to hear from each of you guys. What about that?
Want to take that?
Take that, Chad.
Oh, I almost need to think about that for a bit.
But it's because it's a good question and it's real, and that's one of the. I'll talk while you are formulating your answer.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons for being for this show. Actually, is that the folks that pay attention are predominantly culturally curious photographers, filmmakers, designers, aesthetes, and we have a tendency just to look within our own silo for inspiration. And I knew that most of my inspiration comes from painters, designers, musicians, athletes, and it's outside. That's why specifically I bring those folks on the show, and it's not just a show of photographers specifically. So that's...
Yeah, I mean, I almost, it's a tough one to answer because, you know, there's so much. Like, look around, especially day and age of the internet where, you know, you get lost in Google for a while, and it's amazing what people are doing out there, and everyone's able to share their work.
Yeah.
And for me, definitely a big part of my inspiration comes from literature, comes from being able to spend time outdoors, and honestly,
time on your sailboat.
And back to like meditation, like being able to quiet everything down. So, because you know, we live in a day and age of distraction.
Yeah,
it's kind of all we do with all of our social media and everything we do. It's distraction. Yeah,
I was talking to a buddy who's also been on this show before, Tim Ferriss, New York Times bestselling author of The 4-Hour Body, The 4-Hour Work Week, coming out with a 4-Hour Chef here in the not too long, and he does almost all of his writing between the hours of 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. because there are no distractions, and that's the equivalent of his meditation, and that's that sort of, you can gather during the day in the noise, but you synthesize when you're meditating, or what it is when you are being your most creative expression of yourself.
Right.
You good, sir? Answer that question.
Yeah, mine's a little bit more homely, but yeah, it's family, friends, get a lot of inspiration, especially my kids, because they of anyone think outside the box.
There's no
get a lot of
box,
inspiration from that. The outdoors, it's why I live in Jackson Hole still, trying to create a film production, film, TV, commercial production company in Jackson Hole is a little awkward.
Yeah.
We do much more than just filming snowboarding.
Sure.
That's probably the minority.
Yeah, and so I think nature, though, it kind of keeps that balance. And then from more of a business standpoint, because I'm a producer at Brain Farm, I'm more involved with the creative side of producing things. It's just entrepreneurs and people taking risks and in the business world and doing things much like yourself that are just coming up with new ideas within the digital world and with technology, but more what you can do with businesses online is very inspiring to me. because you can do a lot of great things for the world.
Yeah, like let's talk about that progression. So if you have ever experienced these things, the folks in the studio audience or at home, if someone calls your idea crappy, all it really is probably is different. It might be crappy. It could just be a crappy idea. Let's call it what it is, right?
Yeah.
But to stop when the first time you hear crappy would be a total failure, I think. If something you believe in, you've got to push it, because all ideas go from, this is a terrible idea, it's too different, it's too weird, to, well, maybe he's onto something, but he'll never do it, or she'll never do it. Then, wow, this is crazy, to self-evident. There's a philosopher who coined this sort of pattern, I don't remember who it was, but from that's a terrible idea to doy, it's self-evident, that's how it's always been, is sometimes a long and painful train, right? And especially if you're the person, I have a blog post that I would encourage folks to check out after the show. I think it's called Get Used to Hearing No, because no is what you're going to hear if you're doing anything worth a shit, right? Because they can't be done, don't want to do it, it's too hard, it's too expensive, etc. And if you're hearing no, then and you care about it, don't just seek no. But I think that's a great driver, and you guys have probably heard no. Well, the first time you told someone you want to find a 2,200 vertical foot hill, tree it, build a bunch of jumps, and let it snow, and then we're going to have a party. What did they say?
I think they kind of scratched their head a bit. It came down to, like, okay, you want to build something in the middle of nowhere, and the funds that it's going to take to do that.
Right. How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take to get there? How's going to, there's all these roadblocks. But did you ever see those as roadblocks?
No, I mean, I think if anything, they were just kind of closed-minded ideals. If someone doesn't have their head wrapped around something and they hear it and they're not open-minded enough to take it, then sure, they're going to shoot it down.
Interesting, and I'm sure you've come across that as in making the sorts of films that Brain Farm makes.
Right.
You've heard no 1,000 times, have you not?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm the guy that says no once in a while too. I'll have to admit. I work with Kurt Morgan, who is the guy that never takes no for an answer. So, but yeah, I agree. You got to be open to new ideas and attacking things that seem pretty much impossible.
Fantastic. We're going to go back to the studio audience. That was a great question. We're going to go back to the studio audience for one more. Who's got their hand up? It's all the way in the front. And this is a cable coming at you. That microphone's attached to an actual cord, so don't hang anybody. You, good sir, have the microphone. Please ask away.
Thanks. Travis, I've been able to watch you from Blacklight to Art of Flight, the entire media career. It's been about tricks. It's been about locations. Where are you going to pull inspiration from for your next big endeavor?
That's a good question. Well, I guess in a sense, what you're experiencing at the time that you are doing something, it really comes across, and it has been a little bit of a running, thought, a running narrative the last 10 years of the film projects I've worked on, and moving into that next project, I think, in the last few years, I've had a lot of things kind of change, little paradigm shifts in my life, and I think that those are probably going to come through on, whatever that next project is that we're working on. And we have rough plans right now of actually embarking on another 3-year film project.
I bet it's going to be easier to get funding this time.
Yep.
Once you've delivered something.
You'd think.
Yeah.
It's still a massive process.
It is. It is.
Yeah. But it'll continue to evolve. I guess with us, I mean, I'm, to bring it down a little bit, it's simply as, I'm still trying to, I just turned 30 years old, and I'm just starting to even realize kind of who I am, figure it out, and take time to actually look inwards. And I look forward to, what this new project holds and the opportunities to, I guess, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's two key points I think that I'd like to focus on based on what you just said. One is just turned 30. Let's end this life is short thing, and let's say life is long.
Amen.
Because A, you want to live a long life, but B, there's the amount of things that you can create and the amount of learning that happens with each project it's magnanimous, it's gigantic. The ones that I've done, at least, I've learned so much from. And then I realize when I go into the next project, you know, that you've got, oh my God, I got this whole truckload full of experience that I can bring with me, and I think that's incredibly valuable. And then there was another point that I was going to make, which I'm going to try and go back to because I wanted to hear a little bit more from you. Where is your head at on that stuff?
As far as
like
what's going to
project,
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny because we've been discussing that quite a bit lately, and I think, you know, we want to tell different stories within snowboarding. That's not just about, oh, we pulled off the next sickest trick, or we're going to the next location that no one's ever been to. Those stories have kind of been told, but there's kind of the softer stories, and I think Travis and I have been talking about this a lot more. And just the characters, getting a little bit more into the characters, because there's so many crazy people that Travis has gathered on his posse of writers that he wants to be in the films, and really interesting characters and how they affect the world, and they're actually very interesting people. Again, it all comes down to the action, really. If we're going to make core snowboarding films, you got to have the best action. But there's some great stories that just haven't been told on the softer side of things, and I think there's some inspiration there.
I mean, yeah, human element. I mean, we're surrounded by a bunch of pretty amazing rebels. I mean, you could even go as far as to call them anarchists. Like a buddy of mine, Nicholas Mueller, he, you know, as of about a year ago, he doesn't have a cell phone anymore. It was ruining his quality of life, and he ditched it. I mean, is there, you know...
I'd just be lost all the time, so I have to keep mine. But I respect and appreciate that is different. That is bold.
Yeah. So I think, you know, I look forward to the kind of like question marks that lie into the future. We got great plans, which of course we're not allowed to disclose.
Not allowed to disclose any of those plans. Actually, there are a couple plans that you can disclose that I would like to talk about. And we're going to go to the phones here for just a second. So I'm Chase Jarvis. I'm here with Travis Rice and Chad Jackson, the best snowboarder in the world and from the best production company in the world that creates action sports film, most recently The Art of Flight. You can be asking us questions at #CJLive, and if you've been noticing the Twitter feed, we're just about to give away an amazing kit from Manfrotto, a carbon fiber tripod, a bag, an LED light, a hat, a jacket, a bunch of really great stuff all in one bundle. The way you do that is you hear a great quote, you include @Manfrotto_tweet and the URL, the short URL to this show, and we'll be drawing that in the next, I'd say 10 minutes. So if you hear any buzzwords, get them out there. One of the questions I saw, so the questions are now coming in at a rate that I can't keep up with, and the fine producers back there are feeding them to me, but there's a question, and I don't know what smarty pants person put this up there, because they were really thinking music is such an important part of the film. And you know, there's a band that's been on CJ Live called We Are Augustines that they had 300 Twitter followers when they came on the show, and now they went on 10 weeks later to play Letterman, and then they were the #1 alternative hit on iTunes, and they're completely blowing up. They were included in the film. So talk to me about the approach, the music approach, and bringing other smart people to the project.
Right.
Talk to me in the context of music, but we're thinking globally about bringing in badasses. So
yeah, I think music is definitely an emotion driver in these types of films, and very important. And we've got some people that are very great at selecting music and finding music they like. Kurt Morgan is obviously the guy that really finds the music he likes, and then some other guys in-house. Greg Wheeler, who works at Brain Farm.
Yeah, I saw him drop a camera.
Yeah. Shout out to Greg, Jared, and Bungie. Very key guys in making this film. And they do a great job of finding music that just evokes those emotions and makes you feel good. It gives you the shivers when you hear it come on and you see the great footage. Very important. And I think the other thing that's pretty unique about Brain Farm and Kurt is Kurt actually makes music and scores his own music. The song in the teaser there that you guys saw was created by Anthony Gonzalez of M83 and Kurt Morgan in his garage, Kurt's garage. And it's something that Kurt's very passionate about, creating music and I think it's something that Brain Farm loves to do too. Try to score as much as we can, and we'll show you another trailer here in a bit, another song that Kurt made on his own. So we're starting Brain Farm Records, basically.
Brain Farm Records.
No, I don't think we're really starting it, but that is the label for whatever Kurt does. He has some great ideas for music, and
Got it.
And it's a passion for him, and as well as Brain Farm.
It really helps the emotion in the film for
It
sure.
really
I'm
does.
a big fan. That the same exact track. I put that in an REI commercial that I made. Their holiday commercial. It was a ski and snowboard commercial, so it fits beautifully. And having an eye out for that indie thing, the thing that's not big yet, but it's going to be big, I think is those are key levers in filmmaking, especially in soundtrack.
And I think what you're getting after there too is finding those new bands that are underground and have a great sound. That's a trick to do is find those people early before you spend $30,000 on a song.
Right.
Which it's amazing like how much music you can find online and sample and listen to, through those like social kind of digital media channels.
Yeah.
There's so much out there, and so many people are looking for a break. They want to get their music out there.
Yeah, SoundCloud, Spotify, Fuzz. The list is super, super long. Pandora, for example. But you guys have done an amazing job with that.
We've actually made a behind-the-scenes TV series called The Art of Flight, the series, which is 7 shows that they're going to premiere on Netflix here in the next few weeks. We don't have the exact date, but which is pretty interesting in itself because Netflix is becoming more of a network. So it's one of the earliest unscripted television series to premiere there, exclusively on there for a while, and it's kind of fun because you don't have this big network to tell you what to do for TV. You can actually make what you want and deliver it to them, and it doesn't have to be exactly 22 minutes. It can be 26 minutes or 28 minutes. You have a lot of freedom, and it's kind of exciting to premiere something on Netflix. But anyway, it's 7 shows behind the scenes of Kurt, Brain Farm, and Travis and the other riders in the film making a film and trying to succeed in making the best snowboard film ever.
Yeah, I love that. Again, that's different. That is like, just because there hasn't been an outlet for that. That's actually how this show came about. Is, I was approached by E! and Bravo and all this. They wanted to do a stupid reality show. It has to start like this and end like this, and there has to be a fight between the stylist and the cameraman. It's like, it was
right.
Crappy.
Yeah.
And to be able to just say, we're just going to put it on the internet. We're going to do whatever the hell we want. We can drink beers while we're filming, or we can have 4 clips or 3 clips and 1 person or 3 person in a band if we want. Right. To me, that freedom and the fact that you guys are doing that with Netflix specifically is another different. It's another breaking the paradigm that I have huge respect for. So kudos to you guys, and now we should watch the thing that we have not yet seen before. Are you ready? Take it away.
For 2 years, Travis Rice and Kurt Morgan risked it all to make the film of their dreams. Watch as they travel around the world with the Brain Farm film crew and the best snowboarders on the planet in an attempt to present snowboarding as it's never been seen before.
Every year it seems to get more complicated.
We're starting to push it. This is the story of how the art of flight was created.
5 seconds.
Last one, baby. Made it.
You gotta go where the snow is. Hopefully Patagonia comes through for us.
No, that's not possible.
Okay, I'm done.
Just don't give up, dude.
And let's go get tons of fuel and go here.
What planet the fuck were you from?
We walked away from 3.5 weeks of shooting with nothing to show for it.
Where's the snow?
You wanna put that camera away and help already? Too bad. I'm in the job. I might as well scare myself a little bit.
That was a great play. I've never seen a human being flip the script so much in my life. That's what I wanted. Yeah.
Wow, nice one. So, again, first time. Thank you for debuting that with us. First time that people are seeing of the Art of Flight television series. It's going to be on Netflix. There's another thing that's coming up, which is the 3D version. We saw a little, it said 3D at the end of the trailer we played a couple ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good way of like wrapping it back.
That's right, wrapping it back to the beginning. We do that. We've got 6 minutes to do it, so tell me a little bit.
3D. Well, we just got back from the San Sebastian Film Festival, which huge deal, one of the biggest film festivals in Europe, and their 60th year anniversary, and we actually highlighted on a Friday night, and to 3,000 people, Art of Flight 3D world premiere. Essentially, the Art of Flight 3D came about after the fact because we did not shoot the movie in 3D, and I don't know how familiar you are to the fact of you were able to shoot the thing in 3D, and then you're also able to do it in post, which you see all the remakes coming out in 3D right now in the theaters.
Star Wars 3D. Wait a minute, they didn't have 3D technology when they shot Star Wars. So.
Yeah, and so basically they do it through a system called rotoscoping, which they go in with a pretty large team and take every frame, and break it down and cut out every layer. So like, for this they would, cut this locker out and cut the front of our knees out and cut this out and then run it through a system and separate it depending on, what those parameters should be. And so the company that we actually partnered up with, in 2 years, they only worked on 2 projects. They worked on Titanic 3D and the Art of Flight 3D.
I think I've heard of that film, Titanic.
And so we were really lucky to work with them.
Yeah, Venture 3D. They're great guys to work with, and they worked on our film a lot out of passion as well.
Yeah.
Because they just love the content. They, obviously they're doing things like Titanic and Priest and a bunch of other large films, but they did ours they wanted to see it go to 3D. And 3D is tough because a lot of people will be like, well, why didn't you shoot it in 3D? Well, first of all, it's very expensive. It would have been twice as much gear.
Twice as much footage.
It would have been twice as much media to manage.
That's the way, for those of you who don't know, you stereoscope cameras, you put them side by side. So you have 2 cameras, twice as much film, everything basically gets duplicated. So all the shit show that you saw, just imagine twice as many shit shows.
Yeah, so we really wanted to shoot the film in 3D, but it doesn't make much sense, budgetary, and also just the logistics of it. Snowboard films aren't meant for big crews, so.
Yeah, and it would have tripled the size of our backcountry crew, which we wouldn't have gotten anything done.
Not appropriate. Well, as we wrap up, because I have to do that, it's been an amazing show. Is there anything that you haven't been able to say in the show that you want to tell our in-studio audience or the world there in that camera with the little red dot on it about what you're doing, where you're going, about what they should be thinking, any advice that you pass on to the people in the world, to the people?
Put yourself first, If you're not happy with what you're doing or inspired, then how are you gonna pay that back to the outside world?
Great advice.
I'm just I'm grateful that I have the amount of people that have my back and relationships I've made, and I'm just stoked. Got nothing but love.
Nothing but love.
Yeah.
Excellent. Chad?
I'm gonna leave it with that. Travis.
Yeah, he's good at sewing stuff up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll end there, and I'll say thank you very much. But I've got a couple things I'd like to personally wrap up. I want to announce the winner of the Manfrotto kit, the carbon fiber tripod, the bag, the coat, the hat, and the LED light. Thank you very much, Manfrotto, for supporting us. The winner goes to @HLBphoto, who also got a question asked, if I'm not mistaken. You have to be proud of failures. Being able to fail miserably is a big part of innovation. Winner, you deserve that. That was a great pull quote, and you can send an email to production@ChaseJarvis.com. That'll get us in touch, and we can send you all your fancy stuff. If you thought this was cool and you want to be notified first when the next ones are, so you can put on your calendar. If you want to be invited to be a part of the in-studio audience, you have to sign up for the email list, which is right around here somewhere on the ChaseJarvis.com/live page. And big thanks to the folks that made this possible, to HP for helping me make the world a more creative place, to Braun Color, my lighting group, who's in support of what it is that we're doing here, And remember their event in New York City on Friday. I will be there. Manfrotto, my personal tripod company of choice, and Live Books as well. Thank you guys so much.
And sound guy.
Yes, and
big shout out to sound guy.
The sound guy. I hope he's doing well. He's at the hospital. I don't know if I talked to the in-studio audience before. Our sound guy got ill, and we had some superstars stepped in. So props to you guys, and thank you guys very, very much. And without further ado, I'm going to wrap this sucker up by saying thank you, in-studio audience, and you folks out there in the internet. Stay creative and have a great day. Thank you very much. Give it up for these guys. Come on, one more time.